Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Peace be unto you. We're finished with ayah number 17 from Surah Yunus, which is Surah number 10. Ayah number 18 continues the theme that was related in the previous ayat. And here it says, and they worship other than Allah or besides Allah, that which hurts them nothing or benefits them with nothing. And they say, those are our intercessors with Allah. Those are the ones who are going to intercede on our behalf with Allah. And Allah answers and says, are you telling Allah what He doesn't know in heavens or in earth? Praised be He, and higher does He exist above all those that you worship or associate with Him. So this ayah explains why the worship of the polytheists, the pagans, is not acceptable to Allah, because they worship others than Allah. Others means anything. It could be a stone idol, it could be a human idol, it could be anything other than Allah. It is called idol because it is who we make it, it is we. It is we who designate this is an idol. And anything other than Allah is way below Allah, because it's part of His creation. And being part of His creation means that He cannot be equal to God. Part of the description of the idols here is that they do not hurt or help. They cannot hurt or help. So if you have a problem, where do you go? Normally we go to Allah, right? They go to their idols, but those idols cannot help or hurt them. And they claimed that those idols are their intercessors. They intervene to make Allah forgive them or give them mercy or provide for them. And they didn't need to do that. As human beings, we need not to ask God's creation to give us what only God could give, whether it is life or health or provision or anything of that sort. Then Allah, in denial of their logic and their argument, He says, are you telling Allah that which He doesn't know in heavens or in earth? Praised is He, and higher is He than all of those associates that you fabricate. Ayah number 19. And people were no more than one community. Then they disputed and differed. And were it not for a word from Allah that preceded, a judgment would have been rendered over the issues they dispute. This refers to the fact that Allah created all humans in the beginning as believers. Adam was entered into paradise by Allah. He was invited, he and Eve, right? So they acknowledged Allah by the fact that they spoke to Him and He spoke to them, right? Inviting them to paradise is one way. Telling them to get out of paradise is another communication. And we know those happen. So Adam taught his children to believe in Allah. So the early generation of humans, the first generation of humans, they were one community. They didn't have any fight or dispute or counter argument against Allah. Nothing. Okay? So here the ayah says, people used to be no more than one community. Then they disputed. They started arguing about Allah. Like some communities, some people would say, Why do we have to worship Allah? And where is Allah? Why don't we see Allah? And what does Allah do for us? Because they don't see Him. Allah is part of the unseen that we believe in. It's like believing in the hereafter. It also cannot be materially proven, right? But the fact that Allah can resurrect a dead person, this is proven scientifically. The fact that Allah can bring the dead to life, it has been proven both by miracles and by scientific experimentation. Okay? After all, Allah created every living thing from nothing. He created the whole universe from nothing. So He doesn't need to prove Himself. It is us who need to prove ourselves as being conscientious, righteous people. So where it says people were none but one ummah, one unity, one community, then they disputed, means disputed over the issues of faith and belief. And were it not for a word that proceeded from your Lord, a judgment would have been rendered. Here the ayah is referring to the fact that Allah could have judged humanity early on, but He wanted this creation to continue to grow and prosper and get more chances. So He gave the chance, and this is the word that the ayah is referring to, saying, were it not for a preset word from God, a judgment would have been rendered, which means Allah would have judged. These go to hell, these go to paradise, and it's finished. There will be no humanity after that. But Allah has determined that the hour will come later in time, not at the first instance of dispute or denial of Allah or disobedience. So He let people do what the people do, because He has also decided in His preset of the ordinance of creation, Allah has preset that this creation would live for that long, and they will be all put to death at that date, and the hour will come right after, and there will be a blow in the horn, people will be resurrected, and they will stand accountability before God. This is the word that proceeded from Allah that gave us, humanity, the chance to live beyond our disobedience. The other word is Allah has also decreed in our creation that we will be free agents for our own selves as individuals, and we will be individually responsible before God. Why did you take that position? Why did you not say this instead of this? Why did you say this? Why did you do this? Why don't you do what I told you to do? So this will be the subject of accountability before Allah. Ayah number 20, and they say, were it not for a sign or miracle to be sent down from his Lord. Say, O Muhammad, indeed the unseen is all up to Allah. So wait, I am also with you here waiting, which means waiting for Allah's judgment. So as Allah gave us the opportunity to live, obey or disobey, like Him or deny Him, it's all up to us. It's all up to us. But then, what are we waiting for? We are waiting for our fate. And every living thing is designated and will end up dying and going back to Allah. This is the end. So Allah tells the Prophet, tell them, wait, I am with you right here, and I'm also waiting like you. Ayah number 21. And if we gave people the taste of mercy after something ominous and harmful had afflicted them, then they will have their own manipulation and ploys and plotting and conspiracies regarding our ayat, our evidence and miracles and proofs. Say, O Muhammad, Allah is more swift in His plotting and planning. Indeed, our messengers are writing what you are plotting. So whatever the disbelievers want to plot, whether this plot is against Noah or against any other prophet, including Jesus, Zechariah, John the Baptist, all of these prophets, Allah is telling Muhammad to tell them, to tell the people, that angels are recording whatever anybody does of plotting or conspiracies. In this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to tell people, be cognizant of the fact that not only Allah is watching, but His angels are recording what you're doing and what you're saying. I always use the simple example of you driving your car and the police officer is tailgating you, right? You turn right, he turns right. You turn left, he turns left. You go straight, he goes straight. So he's tailgating you. It means what? That you will have to drive your best, because any motion, any move that you do that is wrong, He will catch you, right? Allah has angels who are not only watching but recording, and He Himself is watching. How much more careful should we be? He watches us when we are up, and He watches over us when we are asleep. So 24/7 surveillance by Allah and 24/7 recording of any and everything you do, which means be careful. Be careful. Don't take Allah for granted. And beyond that, the angels are recording. Imagine when the Quran says that on the day of judgment, your hands will be witnesses against you. Your tongue will be witness against you. Your skin will be a witness against you. Your legs will be a witness against you. What does this mean? It means, and it seems, that the angels are not just writing the typical classic way. It looks like they are taking videos, because this is how my hand will testify against me, because the video will show me stealing the money from the bank, right? Walking to go in the wrong way, right? It will show me when I speak, and my voice will come out and my words will be heard. It's an amazing. How could we imagine that we can put the life of a person on a computer chip, and Allah will not be able to put our life in a much smaller memory and show every second of our life in due time? Definitely, He can't do anything. He is capable over everything. That's what Allah does. So ayah number 22, it says, it is He who sails you through the land and the sea. It's He who enables you to roam the earth and sail in the sea, until you become on board of a ship. And the ship or the ships would be running with good wind, and you will be having great time. You will be very happy and celebrating. Then gusty wind starts to come, and waves start to get high from every corner, and you know for certainty that you are seized in the middle of the ocean. People who are in this situation, would definitely earnestly pray to Allah to save them from this one. Please save us this time. And if you save us this time, we will be among the grateful ones. Ayah number 23. And when he saves them, then they turn into aggression, rebellion, and disobedience in the land, without authority and without right. O mankind, your aggression and rebellion is against yourself. This is the pleasure, the little pleasure you have in this life. Then you will return back to us. Your return is to us. And then we will inform you of what you used to do. Allah is giving us an example of the human behavior. The human behavior is full of humanity. When we are hungry, we want to eat. And if you go shopping hungry, right, you may buy 10, 20, 30% of items you don't actually need. But because you are hungry, you buy everything. Whatever your eye is laid on, you want to pick it. Oh, I can do this. Oh, I can do this. Oh, I can do this. But if you go shopping after your stomach is full, you only buy things that you really need. When we are going through difficult time, even those of us who do not believe in Allah, they would pray earnestly to Allah, asking Allah to give them relief, to save them from the trouble. After He saved them, they go back on their heels and they give their back to Allah. But when they were under the gun, the stress brings them back to Allah. So if you get used to only go back to Allah under stress, if Allah wants to be merciful to you, He would put you under stress to bring you back to Him. You see why people put people in trouble? Because He wants you to continue to be earnestly praying to Him and not resort to anyone else. So even those who worship idols in those days and today, if they were put in a ship as described in the verse here, they would have not prayed to their idols, they would have prayed to Allah. Oh God, save us. Save us from this one. Then ayah number 24. Indeed, the example of this life is like water that we sent down from heaven. It got mixed with the cultivations of the land, of whatever people eat and animals eat, until the earth is very beautiful with green and other colors. And the people thought that they have control over the land and the earth. Then our decree would come down, whether at night or in the daytime, and we would wipe it clear as if it had produced nothing before. What is this? This is an example of a community that feels very powerful, very strong. We can build high rises, we can cultivate the land, we can make the fruit 10 times bigger, we can make the other fruits 10 times sweeter, we can make something out of something different. All of this shows power. So they think that Allah doesn't exist. Everything is up to us. And when they think like this, despite the fact that it is Allah who provides for them and for their animals, when they feel they are a competing superpower that can and does compete with Allah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would wipe it clear, as He did. There were in the past so many communities, whether it is Persia, whether it is Rome, whether it is the Greek, whether it is the UK, whether it is France or the Soviet Union, the greatest empire of our time, militarily at least, right? Or our own empire in the US. If people turn against Allah and think that they have all the power that can compete with God, Allah will show them His power, and they will not be able to stand or survive even. So at the end of this ayah, ayah 24, Allah says, and this is how we delineate to you our words, ayat, evidence, and proofs, for people who would reflect and think and ponder. So let us think and see what the ayah is referring to. We build high rises, and it really shows power. We build spaceships, and it travels millions of miles, as we are told by NASA, right? So we build stuff, and we really have a lot of power in terms of cultivation of things that never existed even before, right? But who gives us the raw materials? Who makes the raw materials do what we want it to do? Who gives us the knowledge of what we didn't know before? All in the hands of Allah. Who provides us with things to eat? And primarily, who makes what is edible, edible? And who makes it digested in our digestive system? Who gives us even the air we breathe and the water we drink? Can we manufacture water too? And where do we get the raw materials? So Allah summarizes all of this and says, whatever you have of blessings, it is from Allah. So the iron could have been impossible to shape if Allah wanted it to be impossible. But Allah tells us in the Quran that He has taught David, the prophet, how to shape the iron and how to manufacture, chest shields, and how to manufacture helmets, and how Allah has made the iron soft in His hand. He taught him how to melt the iron and how to reshape the iron. Who taught him? Allah says He taught David. And David was the first human being to develop shields and helmets and armories. So it's Allah. So whatever knowledge we have, it is from Allah. Whatever raw materials we use and manipulate, it is all from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So even the power and the things we develop that make us feel powerful, it's all gifts from Allah. So we have no real logic or reason to feel proud and boastful. The people of Ad, A-A-A-D, the people of Ad, that Allah sent to them a messenger by the name of Hud, right? They were so arrogant and boastful, so much so that they said, who is more powerful than we are? We are the only superpower. We hit this, we defeated that. Nobody can stand in front of us. And because they were transgressing against others, and they were arrogant, and they thought that they have the ultimate control, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wiped them out completely. just by sending wind against them. Wind, air. And you know that air is the material we breathe to have life. If you suffocate anybody, you prevent air from going through, he dies or she dies. But this air could be the source of our destruction when it turns gusts into 100 and so miles per hour, and it targets it, whether it is people or buildings or, you know, Hurricane Andrew that came in the 80s. It destroyed $20 billion worth of military heavy equipment. It was devastating. So Allah is displaying His power to confront the arrogance of the human ingenuity and the thought that we can do without God, or we can defeat God, or we can oppress His creation. Ayah number 25 says, and Allah invites unto the abode of peace. This is what Allah is inviting us for. He is inviting us to the abode of peace in reference to paradise. And He guides whom He wills to a straight path. You know, the word straight path is an emphasis on our path towards Allah being a straight cut, right? And it distinguishes that straight path from a curved or crooked path. You know, when you want to get to a place and you see a straight street and a crooked other options, where do you go? You go to the straight path. What is the straight path? It is the shortest distance between 2 points. So the shortest distance between us and Allah is the straight path. To go straight, don't divert right, and don't turn left, and definitely don't go back on your heels because the distance becomes longer. So the description of our path to Allah as a straight line, a straight path, is to tell us, be smart. As you do in life, you always use the shortest distance between 2 points. Use the straight path, which is the path of obedience, faith, and trust in Allah, and to submit to Allah all the time. Ayah number 26. For those who have done their best, they will receive the best and even more. Who could give us more than the best, except the one who created everything? For those who have done good is the best reward, and it is paradise, and even more. Neither darkness nor dust nor any humiliation would ever disgrace them or cover their faces. They are the dwellers and companions of paradise, and they will abide there forever. May Allah make us among the people of paradise. As for those who have earned evil deeds, the recompense of an evil deed is the like thereof. You do a good deed, your reward is multiplied. If you do a bad deed, your recompense, your payback is one evil sin. And then humiliation and disgrace will cover them, meaning will show on their faces. If the person is obedient and submissive to Allah and has good relationship with Allah, you have a sense of peace and grace in his face. He or she will radiate light of the love of Allah and the obedience and submission to Allah. It doesn't matter what color skin they are, but their obedience will radiate in their face, in their speech, and in their action. So, so those who commit evil acts, they will be recompensed and paid back with one evil deed, and their faces will be colored with disobedience, rebellion, and disgrace. They are the dwellers and companions of hellfire, and they will abide therein forever. You will see this dual presentation always in the Quran. You do righteous deeds, this is what you get. You do evil deeds, this is what you expect. Then ayah number 28. And on the day when we shall gather them all together, then we shall say to those who did set partners in worship with us, we will say, stop at your place. Stop at your place. This is Allah will stop them at their place on the day of judgment. You and your partners, when we shall separate them, and their partners shall say, it was not us that they used to worship. The idols that people used to worship here, the leaders that they used to follow here, they will say, no, 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 no. They were not following us. They were following money because we paid them. They were after money. And because we had money, they followed us. But they were not worshiping us. They did not listen to us. It was their choice. The idols will also plead innocent from whatever transgression or rebellion or disobedience we have against our Creator. But this ayah, ayah 28, is a huge reminder of the fact that we will be gathered. Everyone will be gathered with the leaders they followed, the idols they worshipped, the objectives they wanted to achieve in this life, the positions they got in this life. And whatever effort you put in any of these directions against the obedience of Allah, those will plead innocent of you. They will say, we have nothing to do with him. So ayah number 29 will bring the fact to a conclusion, saying, so sufficient is Allah for a witness between us and you. The followers will say, right? That we indeed knew nothing of your worships of us. I'm sorry, that was the leader. The leaders will say to the followers, we have nothing to do with you, and Allah is our witness. Allah knows why you followed us or whether or not you worshipped us. But we never invited you to worship us. So they want to save their own skin. Ayah number 30, there every person will know exactly what all he had earned before. And they will be brought back to Allah, who is the rightful Lord of all, and their invented false deities will vanish in front of them. They will disappear. False idols will disappear. False leaders will disappear. But they will all be doomed to hellfire. So it is not a good excuse, it is not an acceptable excuse for someone to say, I was misled, my parents didn't teach me better. Why? Because Allah, as we have went over the ayat in Surah number 7 and other places, Allah has put it inside our conscience to seek Him, to know Him, to ask about Him. It is in the conscience of every human being. Even animals that do not speak, right? Animals like a cat. If you have a cat at home, when you feed it, she eats and she jumps on your lap and she's rubbing her head against you to show gratitude and appreciation. When she steals something from the kitchen, she hides behind the cabinet or under the couch because she knows what she stole is not hers and she was wrong. If the animal can know right from wrong, how could man not know right from wrong? But as a security measure, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran that we would not put to torment unless and until we had sent a messenger. So unless a messenger had been sent, and since Prophet Muhammad was sent to the rest of humanity, Prophet Muhammad left us with a documented faith that has been documented both in a book and in a reality in the form of a community. And this community took the message wherever they could reach. And now, 1400 years after, the world is still learning about Islam. 1400 years after Muhammad, the world is still learning about the faith Allah sent down to Prophet Muhammad and the revelation He gave him. So Islam continues to unravel the ignorance and to unravel people's claims against Allah or against His orders. So every day that goes by and Islam is mentioned one way or another in the public or private arenas, somebody learns, somebody's heart is open, and some people accept the faith that Allah meant for the entire humanity. So ayah number 31, it says, say, O Muhammad, who provides for you from the heaven and from the earth? A big question. Who's providing for you? If Allah were to hold the water that comes from heaven, who's going to provide you with water? Do you think that water is self-replicating? Does water have a reproductive system? So, who's providing us continuously with water? It's Allah. Do we have any hand in this? No, we don't. If He wants to hold the water up in the sky and never let it down, what could we do? We will all run dry and we'll be dying. We'll be dead. And this is only one source. Without water, how could we cultivate and grow vegetable, fruits, trees, palms, everything? Without water, there is nothing. Without water, there is no life. So who provides for us all of this? So Allah is trying to ask those questions to show us how dependent we are on Allah, on His grace. And His grace and mercy is not just something moral. Physically, we are living in His bounties. Another question, who owns the hearing and the sight? If Allah wants to make everybody blind, could we stop it? If Allah wants to make everybody deaf, could we stop it? Nobody could stop it. So Allah is giving us the gifts we use to acquire knowledge, to work, to know directions, right? To use to be living things and to be creative and to produce things that we like, need, or want, right? So if He were to take any of these gifts, where are we going to be? So Allah wants us to feel the dependency we have on His grace and His mercy. Furthermore, and who brings out the living from the dead and brings out the dead from the living? And who disposes of all affairs? You know, you may have somebody who is threatening you. If Allah were to let anybody threatening be able to execute his threat, how many more millions of people would have been dead by now? In fact, we should ask how many would have been alive. So it is by the grace of Allah that He holds in His hand the control over every matter there is. And that keeps us safe from each other, protected from each other's aggression, by Allah setting limits. So you may plan and plot and conspire to do something to harm somebody, but then whatever you use, Allah makes it fail. Where is your plotting and planning? Allah can fail it, right? And Allah does fail many millions of attempts that people make to hurt each other. But by His grace, He's saving us from us. So who disposes of all matter? It is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay. So ask them, O Muhammad, all of these questions, and they will answer and say, only Allah does all of this. Only Allah sends down water to bring life. Only Allah gives us our sight and hearing. Only Allah brings the dead from the living and the living from the dead. And if you are wondering what benefit or blessing is in this, it is the fact that dead grains come from living plants, right? And further, living plants come from dead grains, right? Only after Allah would crack it, it becomes alive, right? If Allah didn't will it to crack, you could put all the seeds in the world in the ground. It will never grow a plant. So bringing the living from the dead is in reference to the plants growing from the earth and from the dead seeds, right? Then when water comes on it, Allah orders it to start opening up, cracking, and growing. So it may be a dead or black seed, right? But then Allah sends water and He tells it, open up and grow. It brings green plants. Who brings the light from the sun all the way down here? 93 million miles between us and the sun. 93 million miles. Do you imagine million miles? The whole globe is 24,000 miles. It's a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a million, like the sun. 93 million miles. And the sun keeps radiating light and heat. And who keeps it at the distance that it is, so that if we get closer 1 degree, we all burn and evaporate. And if we get 1 inch away, we all freeze. Who keeps it on the dot 24/7, 365 days? You see how fully dependent we are on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah says to Prophet Muhammad, ask them those questions, and they will definitely say, no one but Allah. Then Muhammad, tell them, will you not then be afraid of Allah's punishment? Don't you fear God? Don't you fear if He takes away the water, or if He stops bringing the living from the dead and the dead from the living? How could life continue? Life, all of it, there will be no life. So you see, Islam presents in the Quran logical questions that all peoples should ask. We should never take anything for granted. And when we do, Allah sends disruptive events so that we recognize the peace and the grace in which we live, brought by the power and the mercy of Allah. So when we take things for granted, you get just a tornado, right? Or a twister running from western Tennessee all the way to the eastern of the state of Tennessee a few years ago. It erases and razes 3,500 homes, all in about 10 minutes. Everything becomes debris, sticks, small sticks, like match sticks. Even the governor of the state of Tennessee says, as he stands on the rubble and the debris of those houses that vanished all of a sudden, he says, if this is not God's wrath, then my mother didn't teach me what God's wrath is. So when we start taking Allah and His provision of peace and grace, beauties and resources, when we take all that for granted, Allah would send us events that reminds us of His power and how He can turn things upside down. Until today, I am still getting messages from people in Houston because of the hurricane that went through there, that they are unable still to go back to their normal life. So ayah number 32, it says, such is Allah, your Lord in truth. So after the truth, what else can be there save falsehood? Nothing could be there but falsehood. For example, you're traveling on 95 North and you want to exit on King Street. That's your way, that's your road, that's where you're coming to here, to Columbia Pike. If you miss the exit of King Street, what do you need to do? You have to come back to get to Columbia Pike, right? So the truth, if you miss the truth, where are you heading? You are heading towards falsehood. What do you say to somebody that you want to ask to give you direction because you got lost, you say, right? So anybody who misses the truthfulness of God, the truthfulness of his provision and bounties, he will only go lost. That's all. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raises another rhetorical question. How then are you turned away from God? So if the exit says this is King Street and you refuse to take it and you go forward, is your direction correct? Or you recognize after the next exit, I am lost. And if you have a GPS, it will tell you make a U-turn. Our GPS is our conscience, the faith in our heart. It should always redirect us and do recalibration so that our soul is more attracted to what is righteous and it refuses to go to what is wrong. So the following ayah number 33, it says, and as such, in the word of your Lord will come to pass against those disobedient ones. What is this word? That they will not believe. So if a person lives in total disregard and disobedience to Allah, and he likes what he does, he is comfortable where he or she is, would Allah open his heart to the faith when he insists on disobedience? So he sees the sign and he keeps going, and he's going fast, and he doesn't know if he will ever have even the chance to make a U-turn or not. I think we'll stop here because I do have another appointment to catch. So this will be ayah number 33 that we finished, and we will start next time from ayah number 34.